Anyways, scrambling this morning. Dude, you know what's funny is you have it all set up. You think you're doing great, and then like the fire just hits. So it is what it is. You don't have to be perfect to be a coach, right? So it's cool, guys. So welcome back. I'm super excited today to be here. I got a wonderful Beverly Knowles on. We're going to have her speak to you guys about some crazy mind shifts she's had. And if you put it out into the universe, it can happen. Or let's be real, what we look for happens to us, right? That's a more common thing than not. It's just like buying a new car. I know we just got my wife a new Tesla, and holy crap, do you notice how many Teslas are out on the road all of a sudden, right? So I think that's a huge thing to understand. You know, when we're coming into this organization and we're looking for certain things, they always show up for us. So I want you guys to get your pens and papers out, get your seats buckled up. I got myself a cold cup of coffee because I didn't even get to it yet, but you can tell I'm excited and I don't really need it right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about soft skills. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about how do we transfer some of these skills over to our coaches, because if we do one thing with one person and we say something different, it's a whole ball game of trying to change that up along the way. And if we start somebody out properly and we bring them into this properly, they don't know any better. And that's really where it can happen. So before we get into that, guys, I want to bring on Beverly Knowles to kind of just talk about what her mind shift has been. I know this girl has been here for a minute, but once she figured out the mind shift of what's going on, she's even brought on an executive director and is continuing to bring on new coaches. So Beverly, are you there?
I am here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks. So yeah, I have actually been an executive director for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. But Justin always believed in me, and he always invited me to every event. And so luckily I was able to attend most events, like almost all of them, I think, because I knew that I had to do the work in order to make what I wanted in my life to happen. And as long as I did the work, everything would filter through. And so, but what I found was that as much as I wanted to succeed, I was treating coaching like I was treating my dieting life. So all my life I've been a yo-yo dieter. You know, I gain the weight, lose the weight, gain the weight, lose the weight, gain the weight, lose the weight. And it wasn't until I found this program that I actually was able to conquer my weight loss and get to a point where I wanted to, you know, be successful at it. And so I found that I was doing the same thing with coaching. I was yo-yo coaching. So I would bring some coaches on, then they would fall off, and then I bring more on, then they fall off. And then, you know, and I was just getting really super obsessed with, you know, I guess not the rejection part of it, was kind of tough, because, you know, you have such big goals for these people and you want it so much for them. And, you know, and it's just like with the 5 and 1, like when people hop on the 5 and 1, you know that they're going to lose weight. You know that the program is going to work. You know that they're going to be successful if they just follow it. And it's the same way with coaching. You know that if they just follow the systems, that they can have the life that they want, that they can leave their jobs and they can do the things they want to do, and they can travel and they can do all these things. And so, so that's what I found I was doing. Like I was doing a lot of yo-yo coaching back and forth and back and forth. And I found that the reason why I was doing it was because it was easier to fail on myself than it was to push through the fear of the rejection or having another person fail or whatever was going on with them. And so this last mind shift that I had at Grow Global was, I had never really been in that arena with all of these people who have gone further than we have. You know, these people that are already IDPs and they're already, you know, they're already way up. They've already done all of the stuff that we're trying to do right now. And I really got to know some of them and I got to meet them, and man, they're just like us. And that was the coolest thing. It's like, I realized I'm like, they're just like me and they're so nice. And they were so happy for me because I was there, because I made it there. And it was so enlightening to know that we have such a support system, because I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of pullback from my friends and family, a lot of pullback. And I still do to this day. I actually had to recreate my friend group, which was super hard. I had friends for 30 years, sorority sisters, that completely flipped the switch on me and completely just were like, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're leaving your job. I can't believe. I knew in my heart, the day that I met Justin and Desiree, I knew that day that this is where I was supposed to be, no matter what. And I have never gone back on that feeling. Now I haven't moved as far as I should have. I haven't moved as fast as I probably should have. But that's my own chatter and that's my own stuff that I have going on. But I knew. And so I wasn't going to let anybody stop me from going to where I wanted to be. And because I always knew, even growing up as a kid, I knew that life could be different. I grew up in the Midwest, and it's a great, I mean, don't get me wrong, Midwest is awesome. It's amazing. It's awesome. But I always knew that I never really fit in. And so when I did decide to move to California, I finally found my place. And I feel that way about this community. I feel the way about what we're doing, our mission. It's like, I found my place, right? And hopefully all of you guys kind of feel that same way. But just some of the people that, some of the things that I actually kind of shifted was I wasn't spending a lot of time with celebration calls with my coaches. It seemed like all of my coaches didn't want to do celebration calls, or their clients didn't want to do celebration calls. So finally, Justin and I had a couple of meetings with a couple of my coaches, and we just finally said, you know, this is part of their program. It's an accountability thing. And so we have to do it. And so what I started doing was I started keeping a log. I actually have a journal, and I have all of my clients, or all of my coaches' clients that I do celebration calls with. I have all of their information in there, like they're my own client. Because I know from Grow Global that we can find our runners like 7 tiers down, right? And so just because our coaches aren't running and they choose to go a different path, or they just want to be like a side hustle coach, you know, maybe have 4 or 5 clients, there's going to be people in their client base that are going to be just like us, that want to build a better life and to have more and to make more and to, you know, spread the gift even more. And so I decided to put more stock into really investing in those people, not so much into my coaches, especially the ones that aren't moving forward. So the journal has really helped. I have them on Facebook. I try to reach out to them. So the other thing too, is I was getting super obsessed with what my coaches were doing and that what they weren't. I guess I was getting more obsessed with what they weren't doing, rather than working on trying to help them do what they need to do and get them back to their why, right? So when I got back from Grow Global, I actually messaged every single person on my share list, every single one. And guess what? Everyone rejected me. Everybody said no. Everybody said absolutely not. We're not interested. A lot of them were very super nice about it. Some of them just totally ignored me. And they were like, you know, they just didn't want to have anything. But you know what I did? I planted the seed. I planted the seed. So even though they rejected me, and even though they said no, I planted that seed. And guess what? They're going to keep watching what I'm doing. And they're going to see that I just came back from Costa Rica for a week. And they're going to see that I'm going to St. Louis in July for a month to visit friends and family. And they're going to see that I'm going to be going off to, I don't even know where next, but because I can work from anywhere, right? So I was really, it was scary, but I did it. And then I decided I remember, who was it? Someone said once, I know, they said, if you want a first-class life, you have to sit in first class, because you have to get yourself around those people. And I realized that I'm the underdog. I always bring on the underdog. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always new in almost every school. I've moved a lot, new in every school. I would always gravitate to that underdog and be like, I'll be your best friend. You know, I'll be your best friend. But what I found was these underdogs were dragging me down, right? And so I need to revamp my circle so that I can actually reach more people. And it's not that I'm going to have to leave people behind, unfortunately, but they're not growing with me. And so if they decide not to grow with me, I have to let them go. And it's hard. I'm telling you, I'm starting to tear up a little bit. It's really hard, but you can't drag the dead weight behind you, because it's just going to keep dragging you down, and you're not going to be able to do your mission and what you are meant to do, right? Because we have a mission. We have a mission to share this gift and to embrace it and to help other people see their potential, right? So I think I'm done, actually. I always get nervous doing these things. And I was a teacher, believe it or not, but you guys, I really appreciate you guys for everything. I am not the perfect coach. I make a lot of mistakes, but I really appreciate everybody here. And hopefully I shared a little bit of what just helped me kind of get past that fear, you know. So I guess.
Awesome job, Bev. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
I appreciate you. So cool, guys. So you can see, I mean, so many people in the chat are saying stuff. Let's put a 2 in the chat to give Bev some love for coming on today, being scared and doing it anyways, right? And she's getting a lot of no's, and she's getting a lot of resistance, I guess you would say, but she's learning and shifting. You know, one of the things I'll share that she's done, and I know, like she said, she was nervous. One of the biggest things we worked on is when calls were an issue for her, and everybody would either schedule a call and cancel, or nobody wanted to get on a call, right? And within the last 6 to 8 months, even before Grow Global, all of a sudden we had this shift. And now she's doing Coach Explorer calls, and now she's doing celebration calls, and people are showing up, and people are showing interest. And so that's some of the stuff I wanted her to share today too, because we have to be willing to get through the dirt, right? And sometimes we do 2 or 3 steps into the dirt, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm doing something wrong. And like she mentioned, she's not a perfect coach. I know I wasn't a perfect coach. God help Jamil for sticking around. I mean, I didn't know how to do half the stuff I was supposed to, technology, messaging people, calling people, or anything, but I was willing to bang my head on the wall long enough to figure it out. And I had a great support system. And that's the same thing I believe in everybody else. If you're doing the work, here's the key for your coaches. If they're doing the work and it's just a little bit of a skill set issue, continue to work with them. If they're not doing the work, well, talk to your mentors about how to work that out. But that being said, guys, you know, one of the biggest things I want you guys to get good at, and this is something I did on my team call the other night. It is so pivotal. And I know you guys are like, how is this talking about FIBC? But here's the thing. How to bring on coaches is just like how to bring on clients. And I did a call the other night, my team call, and I kind of even guided people, but it's almost like you get in front of people and you get nervous. It's like Bev. I'm just going to use Bev as an example because she knows I love her. And this is true. You get on this call and you want to train and you want to speak. I got on this call this morning and I had everything lined up, ready to go, and stuff went haywire. And I got an echo in the background and whatever. Now I could sit there and be stressed about it the whole call, or I could just say, who cares, right? Sometimes we think we have stuff set up, but it's the same thing with our story, guys. When we're starting to share this with people, I had people on my team call the other night share their story, and they're like, oh, Justin's asking me, so how am I supposed to say it? We don't how we're supposed to say it. We're supposed to share our story. You should know your story like you know your kid's birthday. You should know your story like you know your birthday. You guys should know this like the back of your hand. I don't care if you're talking to Dr. A. I don't care if you're talking to the president. I don't care if you're talking to the VP of some company. I don't care if you're talking to a multi-millionaire. You should know your story. This is one of the key things of exploring with coaching. Are we being real with people? I even had a shift this far in. I'm bringing on 2 coaches. I had a real unplugged with them, and something I'll share with you guys. I have a coach that's coming on right now, and her husband's an inspirational speaker. And I talked to him first. I found him on Instagram, and he's like, oh, well, I'm doing really well. You know, so maybe my wife could do this and this would be something for her. And then I talked to her and she's like, oh, I own my RV business and we're doing really well. You know, maybe, you know, I'll do the program for now, but I don't really need the finances. Well, guess what? If you get real with people, if you share your $15 an hour story, if you share you're working 80 hours a week, if you share your time freedom, if you've been posting the way you've been posting and consistently doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you get on a call to see what their goals are, they ain't making the money like they said they were. And that is something that's important for us to find. If you're going to go sponsor coaches, if you're going to go find people, you got to ask the tough questions. You got to ask the awkward questions that you feel are awkward. I don't think they're awkward. I'm going to ask questions. Well, how do you like your job? Well, tell me about your stress levels. Oh, you have debt? Let's ask this one. I ask people how much debt they have on a coach startup. What are we going to be paying a month to make your life easier? We need to know, like Josh is a Rain Man with numbers. We need to know these guys' lives for them to have a huge why. If we're talking to their superficial, then we're going to get a superficial answer. We're not going to get somebody to stay around and want to paint a picture for themselves. Now, some people are going to do what some people are going to do. But when you're building a team of coaches, when you're going FIBC, when you're trying to make somebody go senior coach, you have to get at least a solid why attached. My why at the beginning was to make $2,000 a month. That's not going to sustain me forever, right? That's going to get me out of my immediate dirt and my immediate not so good life. But now when I start to get a taste of that, what's next? We have to be good with that. So asking these questions, guys, sharing your story. What is your real story? Do you know your real story? Like if I called on you guys right now, would you give me like oh, I'm in front of everybody nervous story, or would you know your story right now? That is a huge start to sponsoring coaches. That is a huge part of being transparent. I tell people to be transparent, to bring coaches on and have them not just disappear in 2 to 3, 4 months because you gave them a bunch of hype and their why isn't attached to what's going on. Right? Are we being more talkers, or are we asking more questions? I used to hate that. Jamil used to hate that when Kim did it to him, or Karen did it to him. He told you his story. He unfriended people, right? He blocked people. These are things that it takes. But if that person is willing to go through it, like Jamil was, thankful he stayed, right? There is people out there that will go through it. You don't have to worry about pissing people off. That's something else we're worried about. So I'm telling you all this stuff mentally because this needs to prepare you for how many no's you're going to get, for how many coaches are going to come on and not do anything. Micah did a great job yesterday. 54 cards in a deck, right? If you count the aces or the jack or the joker, excuse me, right? But there's only 4 aces in there. That's not a judgment. That's just kind of a fact. If we're looking for our 12, right? If we're looking for our senior coaches, if we're looking for people that are doing things, it's really important. One of our transformational habits, you guys know those, right? Hopefully, wink at me, maybe blink. Lead from the future and act in the now. If we're trying to go FIBC, but we're sitting here trying to go FIBC in the next 30 days or 60 days, but we have it mapped out action step wise for 9 months, of course you're going to get discouraged. Of course, coaches are going to fall off. You know why? Because you're so busy focusing on them, you're not getting new. And I did that too. Oh, this coach is falling off. Well, if you have 3 new, no offense, who cares? This is kind of the tough stuff to talk about, but I'm just being real with you because we start going backwards. We start getting in our head. Oh, maybe stuff's going backwards. We'll focus on that. That's why the news is so popular. We're really quick to go to the attention of the negative because there's an energy behind it like no other. It's sad, but it is what it is. So let's talk about it, guys. We need 5 senior coach teams. I'm going to just say this, like they said with the 6,000, we don't need 5. We need about 7 or 8, right? And let's be real. Don't get it in your head that you landed at FIBC. The cool thing about this business is if you do the same thing you do at your job and you show up, the action of what this does and the energy and the momentum of what this does, Beverly's seeing it now. She's getting people on calls and people are starting to sign up as coaches. I have other coaches that, oh my God, I just brought on 2 new coaches. Oh my God, my landlord signed up as a coach. Lady has multiple rental properties, right? She signed up as a coach. People need this. People need community. People need finances. So our job is just to share that. So what does it look like? 1 out of 3 coaches are going to go senior coach, right? So I'm not good with the math, but let's just talk about that. We'll need about 15 coaches to go senior coach. And that's just with the 5. Why not let's make it 20? Let's get a couple extra in there, right? We need to look at that. Well, what does that look like daily? How many Coach Explorer calls are we setting up? I think I talked about this last week. If somebody even winks at you or barely like, yeah, I could be interested in it, get them on a Coach Explorer call. Teach your coach how to do that. What you do with a person visually is what they're going to do in the business. So if you've hemmed and hawed around a client for 4 or 6 months and then you're excited they come on as a coach, don't get mad if they hem and haw. It's like, I don't understand. Why aren't they getting on coach? Why aren't they getting people on Coach Explorer calls? Why aren't they doing celebration calls? It's so crucial. It's so crucial to understand these things because it ripple effects through our business. And then you guys, I'll just say excuse me, we see like somebody come in and they go in IPD in 4 months. And we're just like, what the H, right? It's because they're following the action steps. They're not changing the action steps. They're just upping their numbers. We're not saying people are numbers like a herd of cattle, but in a rhythm of what we're trying to do, if we have a goal in mind, you have to pay attention to the numbers. You have to know that 1 in 10 of who you talk to is going to sign up right away. That's a law. So let's do some math real quick. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. And you can quote me on it because I bet you, I love you guys. Most of us won't try to do it. But if you're talking to 10 people a day and we're just doing that 5 days a week, that should be roughly around 5 clients in there, right? We know for 5 clients, 1 of them becomes a coaching partner, right? Roughly somewhere in there. Maybe if we're really good, 2, but 1 in 5. If we do that for 30 days, that's 20 clients. And that's 3 coaching partners, 3 to 4 coaching partners, right? If we do that for 60 days, that's 40 clients, or excuse me, if we do it for 90 days, that's 60 clients and at least 8 coaching partners, 8 to 10 coaching partners, right? But here's the thing. Most of us aren't willing to do that. We need to know numbers to share with our team. When I have a coach come on who's new and it's like, oh my God, I talked to a lot of people this week. Well, how many people did you talk to? I talked to 8. We're not even to our 1 yet. If we're setting people up for success, we have to know the numbers. We have to inspire them. We have to make sure that when we get on and they're sending out their text messages and they're going through setting up their practice calls in the next 7 days. We didn't just do that inspirational call. We didn't get them just motivated. And then we wait 4 or 5 days to see, hey, how are we doing with those calls? Next morning, text message goes out. Hey, how are we doing with scheduling those calls? We have to get them wins early on. We have to let them know. And sometimes we're scared to be like, oh, so Justin just told me I have to talk to 50 people before I get 5 clients. I brought on 28 clients in my first month. And we're literally trying to do numbers. I probably had to have talked to at least to close to 500 people to roughly do that. Now, most of us just stare at the 28 clients and like, oh my God, that's amazing. All this stuff. Josh and Michelle blew me out of the water with that. I think they doubled that. But the point is, though, is they were willing to talk to a lot of people. So when we're bringing on coaches and we're kind of sharing this with them, we have to give them a number. Hey, guys, we don't have to necessarily scare them with the numbers, especially if they're a newer coach and you're not really a friend of theirs or there's not that super relationship yet. But you can encourage them into the proper actions of knowing how many people to be able to talk to and really doing that. So are we creating our lists? Are we really going through our lists? How about our maps? How many of us are doing our maps with our mentors? How many of us are teaching our coaches to do our maps? How many of us have people on our list? The 2 people I talked to this last week have been on my list for 2 years. One of them's in Hawaii, right? The other one is up in Utah. That one that's up there in Utah, she's telling me all these stories about how they're financially fine. That ain't the case. So we have to build these relationships. We have to talk to a high amount of people. We have to know that there's no agenda involved in this when we're doing it. So when our maps, if we're doing these things and we're thinking that it's going to happen, if you have somebody on your list, right, you move them into your map, you work around that map, and then you move them off your map in 90 days. We're not saying to get rid of them, but you should have a backup list of like who's next, right? Or if you have coaches, you guys are now business leaders going into being business leaders, right? If you have coaches that you keep putting on your map and they're not doing anything, who's fooling who? This is kind of the unplugged stuff that Justin always talks about, right? I love the conversations I used to have with Jamil back in the day. Dude, stop bringing that person up. They're not going to coach. This is true. But for our goals and what we're trying to accomplish, we have to know the numbers. So we need 15 coaches, guys. Now, if I'm doing the math right, you guys ready to buckle up? 15. We're probably going to have to figure out 150 people. Now that sounds scary to a lot of us and we're like shell shocked, right? And some of the mentor coaches are probably like, what is this guy talking about? Just kidding. But here's the thing. We need to talk to a lot of people. I went to dinner last night with a guy who was a past client. He's like, oh yeah, my wife should really be a coach. You have to recirculate these people, but you have to start with this massive list of 100. There's a reason our mentors talk about that. We have to have people strategically on there. You have to follow up with people. When we say follow up with people, that doesn't mean, hey man, you ready to coach? I have a client right now, her mom's going through it. She fell. She's hurt. She's in rehabilitation. I'm not going to just say, hey, so yeah, how you doing? You ready to coach? My follow-up was, how's your mom doing? Is she recovering okay? Or is it something worse? Hey, you know what? Thank you so much for asking. We have to get to know these people. If they don't trust us, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We say that all the time. So these conversations are important. I'm a little bit abrupt. You know me, I'm a little bit forward, but when it comes to soft skills, we have to practice these things. But it all goes back to, like I said, our story. Do we know our story? Are we willing to be vulnerable? Are we willing to tell a little bit of our dirty laundry sometimes to resonate with people? Everybody's the same. And then the other thing too is posturing these calls. If we're posturing with our coaches and they're learning to posture, that's a key thing. If you're giving somebody an out, they're going to take the out. If we're trying to sponsor coaches, but you're like, well, when you're ready, you'd be a great coach. Let's talk later. Hey, you'd be amazing at being a coach. Some of the things I learned early on as a coach, and you share your story again and again, if you have to. But I think this would be amazing. Hey, you know what? Since a lot of times people, and I tell people, sometimes people don't know what people don't know. So I'd love for you to get on with me because I know there's a lot of stuff out there. And I'd love to explore coaching with you, or even for you guys with your mentor coach. And I'd love for them to kind of share with you and paint a picture of what's possible. Because sometimes we think we know and we don't. How many times have you had somebody say, oh, I thought it was this? These are important things to bring on these coaches. With the action plan and what we're looking for, that's great. But the soft skills are more important to build up that funnel. Creating those lists. Another thing for you newer coaches, the guys that have just gotten in here, if you're not sure how to do that, that's why you schedule the client celebration calls. So your coach can pick out those people for you. So you can learn from your coaches. When we did practice calls for health assessments, that's so you could learn the health assessment. It's the same thing with client celebration calls. It's so you can learn how to be a better business coach. It's so you can learn how to see who has the potential for coaching, who is needing coaching. I know early on, there'd be so many times, John, he makes 6 figures. So we're not even going to bring it up. Okay. Hey, Susie, what happened to John? Oh, he couldn't afford the program. Interesting. We have to learn how to share this with people. And I know we're talking about actions here, but getting real is the most powerful thing you guys can do with this, to learn the mind shifts, to understand that everybody's just like us. So when we're doing these client celebration calls, you're taking notes, you introduce your coach. And I know this sounds like small stuff for us going FIBC, but this is where it's at, because that's how you start to learn what people say and what they do. We're not, like, to Rachel Richards' point, we're not food police on that first week celebration. If you're still talking about the food on day 8, something's off. We're talking about life now. I just checked this client the other night. I said, hey girl, literally, I had last night, I had a client celebration call, and she didn't see me because we're on our phones, and she's just going on and on about the food. And oh my God, I did this on the food, and I did this on this day, and I walked away from the food, and the food. And you know what I said? Hey, how are you doing with the books? How are you doing with the books? She's like, I haven't really even read it. I skimmed through it. Oh, that's what she said. I skimmed through it, and I kind of looked at what I needed. Oh, you know what you needed. Okay. Right. I said, hey, can I coach you for a second? Do you mind? She's like, yeah, sure. I said, hey, why don't we get into reading at least 2 pages a day? Because this book is going to work on, got real with her, all that stuff you talked about, the food. Now, I am super happy for you. And I want to say proud, but it's not my place to even be proud of you, right? Because we don't really know each other. But what I want to say is I'm proud of you because I've been doing this 9 years, and I know it's hard to walk around foods, and I know it's hard to make foods for your kids and stay away from them. So that's amazing. But if we're going to keep this weight off, we need to get into the book. And the second thing I'll tell you is, you know what else you need to do? Suggestion. What? I think you should be a coach. You want to know why? You have a great personality from what I see. Just in kind of eavesdropping in. I was on your call a little bit early. I was in there like 7, 8 minutes listening to you. And I hear your heart and you keep talking about you really want this. That's why you're staying away from the food. I said, coaching is where it's at. I don't know if you've even been in the Growing to Senior or the Chasing Better group, but I'd love for you to check it out. She's like, oh, I've been in there. I kind of skimmed around. I said, I want you to really go in there and resonate with some of these stories. I know you can. There's stories in there where people said, I don't ever want to coach for the 8th time. Don't ask me. There's people in there that are physicians. There's people that are teachers, moms, but I know in there's some stories that can resonate with you. And I'd love to maybe in a few days get back on and talk to you about it. In fact, you know what? We have some verbiage for you that you could post on your timeline and kind of see what's possible. If you don't want to, so-and-so can kind of check, integrate that in and she'll help respond to all these people and show you how to do that. The girl wants to do it today. She wants to be a coach. She's telling me why she was waiting to get to her goal and kind of sneak attack people. But these are things that are important to bring on coaches, guys, these soft skills, these few extra minutes of talking to these clients. Because most of us, I'm gonna be honest with you, especially newer coaches who think they got it and they're on with their coach doing a celebration call. Oh yeah, the food. And then we dive in on the food. We do the bandwagon thing. We get around their arm, we put our arm around them and we're like, oh yeah, the food, yeah, cheer, rah, 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 the food. We got to get real with people. We got to get unplugged with people. We got to share it's not about the food. That was so good for me when Rachel was like, if we're still talking about the food on the 8th day, I'm like, damn, still learning. No ego here. These are important things for us to learn, guys. I'm going to get to some actions here in a little bit, but I want us to prepare a mindset of like, what are we looking for? I hope you guys are taking notes on this stuff. It's so important to challenge people. They came to us for help. Why do we do this? Oh yeah, let's partner together where you're at because our system doesn't work. And now we're like texting our coach, oh my God, Susie said this, she needs to return this food and the food, right? And you guys are probably thinking, what does this have to do with going FIBC? It has a lot. If you're trying to sponsor coaches, if you're trying to get referrals, if you're trying to integrate your clients, if you're trying to do good client support, you got to challenge them. And then when they come on as a coach, they're able to be strong in this area too. Hey, Susie, remember we had that call and you were all about the food? I know this client would be amazing as a coach. We just got to get her past that. And now they're trained, they're ready, they're looking, they understand what to look for. And now they're doing the client celebration calls because you did them with them. And now they're doing the coach explorer calls because you did them with them early on, not 6 months out when they decide they're ready to do. It took them 2 years to show up to this. What makes you think they're going to be ready for a coach explorer call when they're ready? Right? We have to be in that space. So if we know, I'm going back to this, if we know we need 15 clients, guys, we got to start a lot of conversations. Work with your mentors on what that looks like. Fill in your maps. The maps is kind of like a chore to us. It shouldn't be a chore. It should be like, this is a picture of our life, monthly life. Like, what are we mapping out? I had this house down on paper 3 years ago. My vacation house. 3 years ago. When I first started, I just wanted to make $2,000 a month. But Jamil dug into that deeper. We used to do napkin dreaming. And then I obtained those goals. I watched Jamil buy his house that people said he'd never buy. We sat out there and we talked about it. But these are things you have to look at for people. You have to be willing to be bold, unplugged, know your story. Don't make the perfect story for the person. You share your story, but know your story. Don't leave a little bit out because it's like, oh, that's a little tough. Or, you know what I'm saying? It all starts with posturing. People need us. These are things of how you integrate coaches on and how you get coaches to stay. Oh, Susie said she wanted all this stuff, but did you get to know who Susie really is? Poor Susie, because I keep using her name all the time. I don't even know who Susie is. I just made it up. But the thing is you have to get to know these people, guys. Because then when you're dumbfounded when they leave, a client leaves or a coach leaves. But bringing on coaches, you're going to shift through people. People are going to have their own mindset. We know 80% of our clients are going to do what they want to do. 20% are going to actually follow it. So you spend 80% of your time with 20% of your clients. And it's the same thing with coaches. But when you're bringing on new coaches and constantly diving in and exploring with people, since I've been out here, I've set up 5 coach explore calls with myself. The AC guy knows what I'm doing. The owner of the AC company knows what I'm doing. I reached out to an old client. He said he was out here for a month. I went and had dinner with him last night. Like, this is where we have the real raw and unplugged. Me and his wife and him are going to talk today, not 7 days from now. Hey, bro, I left him a voice message this morning. Hey, man, I was thinking about our conversation last night. And I really think if your wife feels like her circle's so small and those people she knows won't do this, I'll tell you what, I'd really love to share with her what's possible, because I guarantee you most of those people will probably be a coach or probably be a client. We just have to talk to them. It's the mindset of what we're looking for. So when we're doing this on the daily, that 150 people I just mentioned for 15 coaches, and the numbers can be a lot better. Your skills get better, the numbers can be a lot better, but that's for like a brand new person starting out. What I can say is this: if you get better with these conversations daily, that 10 people comes out of nowhere. Somebody at the gas station, somebody in the grocery store. Are we sharing and getting to know people? Or are we just in there paying for our stuff? Can I hurry up and get out? Right? How are we starting our morning? I posted in my coaches group, I start every morning with some kind of positivity, because if I bring the day before, oh my, you have day before into the next day, I'm not going to want to be talking to people. These are important things too, guys. So we have some skills involved. We have soft skills. We have the skills of what the coaches are teaching us. And then we have action steps. The soft skills are just being a little bit more interested in people and sharing your story passionately, knowing it inside and out, not getting the real estate agent to talk to this real estate agent because they can resonate, or, hey, Justin's a little more forward, so he really resonate with you. And yes, that does work. But if we get to know our story passionately, you work, you inspire, you help people with those mind shifts, and then your team flourishes, and you teach that skill to your coach, and then you teach that skill to their coach. So time is important. When we shorten up our time frames, that's how people go IPD in 4 or 5 months. I'm not talking about just FIBC, because if we're doing what we're supposed to, like we would at a job, the energy it takes to get to FIBC will easily take us to IPD, because we're so in it and enjoying it that it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't worry about Susie and John that said they wanted to go integrated galactical and now they're disappeared, right? Some people are going to do what they're going to do. I'm going to tell you that. You can be as motivating and inspiring and dream with them. People have stuff outside of us, right? Outside of what this is capable for, need next level help. But I know in my heart, dude, I was the project coach for Jamil, especially because he was early on, but I was hungry to learn. I was willing to do the actions. I was willing to bang my head against the wall. You're going to find those people. Beverly was the same way. I knew she had it in her. She just had some, let's just say it, stupid concepts that she had to get past. Nobody wants to get on a client celebration call. Oh, this person. So we had to come to Jesus talk. How do you really feel about this? Well, maybe it's because, and she shared her stuff. And then guess what? Boom. Oh my God, this person got on. Oh my God, this person's interested in coaching. Oh my God, this person got on a Coach Explorer call. It's just like that. So we have to learn for ourselves what that looks like, and then have our mentors and ourselves, as we're doing these client celebration calls and doing these Coach Explorer calls, work that out. That's the pivotal moment. This is where you'll have longevity in your business. This is where you'll have people stick around longer. This is where you'll start to realize that it is a transformational business. There is transaction. Don't get me wrong. You got to run numbers. You got to understand your back office. You got to know that you need to talk to a certain amount of people a day for this to even happen. Do you guys know the old saying? It takes a plane 100% throttle to get off the runway and get to cruising altitude. They don't let off the throttle until they get to cruising altitude, whatever that is. Most of us try to get off the runway with 50% or 60% or 70%. And guess what? That plane's going to fall if you don't get it up to 100. And guess what happens to our business? So who are we looking for? We're looking for people that are being successful in the program. We're looking for people that are driven business-wise. Maybe they're making good money, but they want to make more money. Let's be real. But we have to get past these facades. We have to do that with our story. We have to do that with our posts. We have to teach our coaches how to do that. How many times, I'll tell you one other tip. How many times do we get on a training and we're like, I'm on, right? Jamil or myself, or maybe one of your leaders is like, hey, who's on the call? And all the leaders are on, but none of the new coaches are on, or none of their teams on. We have to start to be that team. We have to start having that team mindset at this point. We have to start making sure our coaches are on events. We have to start following up, even our coaches. If you have coaches in between that aren't there yet, you got to be that step in and you got to help them lead that coach, right? These are things that we want to learn. So client celebration calls are a must. If your coaches aren't doing that, work with them. If they're not doing it, maybe see how they started out as a coach. So when you bring on a new coach yourself, you can do a better job of that. Because I'll never forget, Dan Valentine said, hey, Doug Wood, thank you so much for not letting me know that IPD just wasn't where I was supposed to go. Like, that's the funnel you want to have, guys. You don't want to be like, oh, I got to executive director and I brought on one coach. I landed. And then, oh, I got to FIBC and I'm doing okay. And then it's like, but what's next? What's next? Because if we do that, then our coaches do that, then your business is kind of slower than you want it to be. And then we do comparative realities. I'm working with you guys a lot on the mental stuff, man. I'm really hoping this pours into you guys and you guys understand it. But the structure is there for us. Dr. A talks about a super highway all the time. All you got to do is follow what we're telling you guys. The other thing too is follow-ups. How many times are we following up? I think Josh and Michelle talked about that yesterday. I just followed up with this girl from Utah. This is probably my 10th time. My 10th time. And she's ready. That's why you got to have a lot of people in your funnel. Imagine if I'm sitting here and that's the only person I'm talking to. This other guy who's from Hawaii, he actually finally reached out to me. I kept texting, hey bro, I know you're in a different time zone. Really love to chat with you. I see you out there killing it. He's got a brick and mortar business, or actually a truck out in Hawaii. I was like, dude, you're business minded. I'd love to chat with you about what I do. I think you'd be amazing. Let's talk. And then finally he's ready. You have to build these lists. We have to go after it. I'm being real with you guys on how many people you got to talk to. And that can sound scary, but you know what? Most of you guys work harder in your business than it would be to just go talk to 150 people. And it goes back to the silliness of, if I had $1 million right here and I told you to go talk to 150 people, for some reason we've been motivated to do that. And I don't understand why. And it's not my job to. But as Beverly said, we're better, right? We're better than we think we are. I was watching a motivational thing this morning, and the guy says, you know what? I was so worried about pleasing everybody else until I realized everybody else is messed up, just like me. The whole world is messed up. And I'm putting these people on a pedestal. And you know, the last part he said, you know, the only thing they've done better than me is hidden how messed up they are. We all have stuff. We all have stuff. The thing with it is I want us to really understand what we have in our hands. So to go FIBC, we need at least 15 coaches. Why not make it 30? Jamil talked about that all the time. When he made the decision, he brought on like 18 clients and I think like 30 coaches over a certain amount of time. And they went global in like 2 months. It's just a decision for what we can do. I made a new decision. I was in management mode. I'm being honest with you guys. I was in management mode. Business is great. It's still growing, but I'm in management mode. I'm back in grind mode. And literally within 48 hours, I've got 5 Coach Explorer calls set up. And guess what? I ain't letting off the gas. We're going presidential again. We're going IPD again. It was a learning lesson, right? When I didn't hit that IPD spot and I'm walking across stage at convention and that was my 3rd month, I didn't have enough coaches. Nobody's fault. I could sit here and be that coach. I'm just being unplugged with you guys. But we need more coaches. It's a numbers thing, guys. Not in a mean way, not in a cattle herding way. So we know 1 out of 3 coaches is going to do something. Who are our 3? Without judging, let them show themselves. That's so detrimental. I'm talking to this guy about his wife and she doesn't want to start because she's already judging every single person she's going to talk to. I was like, we're going to talk to them and we're going to let them decide. So who's our 15? Who do we have in our client base? If we don't have that many clients, who do we have outside of our client base? Let's start with 15 strategically, but let's keep adding to that daily. If you talk to 3 today, that's 12, put another 3 back on there. When you talk to 3 tomorrow, do it. Because guess what? When we get to FIBC, guys, we didn't land. I hope we didn't land. That's a goal, but that's a goal in the middle of our journey. We have to get good with these lists. We have to get good with these client celebration calls. When I'm saying we have to get good with these client celebration calls, you may be good at them. That's awesome. But are your coaches good at them? What are we building? A frontline business? Or are we building an equity business? Are we building an in-depth business? Everybody out there needs us if we give them the opportunity. Not everybody's going to take the opportunity, or they may play with it, or they may treat it as a hobby. Some of them are going to come in and hit the wall running, and some of them are going to take a few years to figure it out. That's not our job. We're just supposed to connect with these people, and that's where the 1 and 3 comes in play. I guarantee you those other couple will eventually show up somewhere, somehow. I have a guy who started back 7.5 years ago. I've been doing this 9 years. He started a year and a half in. And he's finally like, you know what? I went and banged my head on the wall long enough, Jay. I need to finally listen to what you're doing. I wish I would have. No, don't wish. You're ready. Let's start now. So these are some things, guys, action steps. Why don't you go into your team and pick out, if you don't have a lot of coaches, work with your mentors on this too. If you don't have a lot of coaches, whatever number of coaches you have, work with them on their celebration calls. How many clients do they have? How many celebration calls do they have scheduled this week? And then for yourself, how many celebration calls do you guys have scheduled? And then how many Coach Explorer calls do you have? I would say we need to have a minimum of 1 Coach Explorer call a day. And that doesn't mean with you talking to the person. That means with you, with your mentorship. Let them work with you. Work with your mentorship. If you have somebody that you need help with, then at least somebody who's in a place that can do the Coach Explorer call with you. I would personally say FIBC or higher, right? This is the thing we want to do, at least 1 call a day. At least 1 call a day. If we do that over the next 20 days, that's 20 Coach Explorer calls. That's pretty awesome. If we do that for the next 90 days, there ain't no way I'd be surprised if you guys at least aren't FIBC. And that's in a worst case scenario. Up your numbers. Don't change the system. Up your numbers. Work on your story. That's the last thing I want you to do. And your mentor coaches are going to hate me for this right now, but let's just do it. 1.5 minutes, maybe 2. What is your full story? Your full story. Hey, I lost all this weight. I got off of medications. I kind of decided to coach. You should join me. I always tell my coaches 5 bullet points before program. Program meaning can be coaching too, right? For the technical people, type A, right? 5 bullet points after. I thought I was going to start a diet. My energy was horrible. Maybe you were on medications. Maybe your clothes didn't fit. Maybe you went to a birthday party and somebody ripped your shirt off and you were just upset about the pictures. And then after seeing a friend post so many pictures or being introduced to this program or talk to somebody randomly or was a lead, whatever it is, oh my God, I got on program. My energy went through the roof. I'm feeling better. I'm off whatever it is, off medications, whatever that is. And oh my God, you know what? I never imagined me coaching. And I even denied it for a while. But you know what it's done for me? I've been able to replace an income. I have a secondary income in a household that's helping us. We're able to help our kids with tutoring. We're able to have a cleaning lady. We're able to, the water heater blew up the other day and we're able to pay for it cash. We're able to pay down our debt. Oh my God, I think you'd be amazing at this. And I know you talked to me about this, this, and this. And I would just love to see if you're interested in exploring it. I mean, even with me kind of teetering around, I did that in less than a minute. We need to know our story. We need to be transparent. We want to share this with as many people as we can. We want to bring on coaches and learn the skills with them. We want to have them have their list of 10 people. We want to have them schedule their practice calls within the first 7 days. We want them to hit senior coach with not just 5 clients, with at least 8 clients on their way to executive director. There's no stopping. This is a first stage on their way to FIBC like you guys. Life is so different now. Jamil's proof. I'm proof. Dr. A's proof. This can happen for us if we just follow the system. It's like walking down a road with our head down, with a direction of where to go, with a map. Like how I threw that in there, with a map of where to go. And if we take a little step at a time, all of a sudden we put our head up and we're at the place we wanted to get to. But most of us get distracted. There's a squirrel on the ground. Oh, there's a penny, let me pick it up. I mean, it's a silly analogy, but this is what we do with coaching. If we follow it, if we do the steps, guys, life can be so much different. I apologize for this being so haphazard today, but thank you so much for being on. Guys, go send your mentors a video of what this looks like for your story. So that way they can kind of help you critique it if they need to, or if you're really unsure of it, you can kind of practice it. And listen, don't do 50 videos and send it to them. Come from the heart, maybe 1 or 2 practice ones, but don't get it right. It doesn't need to be right every time. It's like a wedding. Nobody knows what's going on in the background. To them, it's a beautiful wedding. Nobody knows that the flowers are missing or the rings are in the groomsman's pocket in the thing. They don't know what your story's supposed to be, but you need to know what your story's supposed to be and share it with conviction. Now, let's go find some coaching partners and let's help our coaches go find some clients. Have a good day, guys. We'll talk to you soon.